Hello, and welcome to everybody. Hi, my name is Ella, and I am your host for today. And before we begin, I want to get to know all of you. So do write down on the chat where you are from, just so everyone knows where you are also tuned in from. Do say hi to everyone else here. So do let me know, where are you all from, tuning in from the Philippines? So I see a lot of people tuned in from the Philippines. Hi to all of you. And do feel free to use this chat box, because you will be using it throughout this webinar if you do have any questions. And once again, I would like to welcome all of you to our webinar, Operationalizing Cyber Resilience, Unifying XDR and SIEM for Modern Security Operations. We are so excited to have you with us today here at Kaspersky as we discuss how organizations can strengthen cyber resilience in today's increasingly complex threat landscape. As cyber threats continue to evolve, businesses need faster, smarter, and more connected ways to detect and respond to incidents. Today, we will explore how Kaspersky XDR Expert and SIEM can help improve visibility, strengthen SOC capabilities, and accelerate response across your environment. We hope today's session gives you a practical insight and valuable takeaways that you can apply within your own organizations. So, without further ado, let me introduce to you our speakers and, of course, our agenda for today. So, in a short while, we will be having the opening remarks, and then we will be having a keynote presentation. And just like I said earlier, we will be having a Q&A portion. So do utilize the chat box below and send in your questions whenever you can think of them. And we will be having handouts throughout this discussion. So do feel free to download them once you see them on your screen. And of course, we have our speakers for today. We have the Regional Sales Manager for Kaspersky, Monish Manukula Surya, and the pre-sales manager of Kaspersky, Jason Ong. Of course, you guys, I will not keep you waiting any longer to officially kick off our session. It is my pleasure to call on Monish, the channel manager of Kaspersky, to deliver the opening introduction. Monish, over to you.
Hey, hi everyone. I hope everyone can hear me clearly, right? Uh, Good afternoon and good morning to those joining from all over the world. Thank you so much for joining in today. I really appreciate your attendance, right? So, obviously, I know everyone is ready to get into all the technical nitty-gritties on our product, but let me just give you a quick kind of start to the session, right? So, I hope everyone can see my screen. So, thank you for the introduction. I am Monish Surya. So, I am the channel manager at Kaspersky. So, let's look at the need for cybersecurity, right? Back in 1994, it was simply one new virus every hour, 2006 every minute, 2011 every second. And today, actually, this is even further updated. We go through, as a single vendor, we go through 500,000 new malware samples a day. 500,000 a day are being not just created. This is just what we are seeing in different environments, in different places across the world, over 500,000 samples every day. So when you look at that, where does Kaspersky fit in? Who are we against these 500,000 plus malwares, right? So Kaspersky is actually one of the oldest running cybersecurity vendors out there. We have been in the industry, cybersecurity focused for 29 years, right? Founded in 1997, and we aren't just your run-of-the-mill antivirus or anything like that. We're actually a product innovation company, and what we're doing now is we're building cybersecurity platforms that will help you and your team and your organization take your security beyond endpoint security and secure your entire organization, right? So with that, uh, who trusts us? So we are proven globally and we are trusted globally. I mean, if you just take the financial services sector alone, again, over 130 financial countries, customers in financial customers in countries use our products. We have government sector across the world. I mean, just in Sri Lanka alone, we have people like the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Education, energy, some of the largest energy suppliers across the world, including China, and the rest of Asia, right? So we have 200 plus territories covered. We have 30 plus regional offices and over 200,000 clients worldwide. And going back to the whole thing about cybersecurity, we're not just a product. We are a cybersecurity company. We are an active contributor. When it comes to cybersecurity, to us, it's not just about giving people something to help protect. No, we want to actively protect as many people as we can, which is why we are a active industry contributor. We contribute to Interpol efforts, we contribute to the MITRE ATT&CK framework, the Paris Call for Trust and Security, just to name a few, as well as helping organizations as well as other software vendors worldwide identify zero-day vulnerabilities and helping them fix them, right? So whether we're helping Adobe, Microsoft, Google, or Apple find these vulnerabilities and help patch them, that's where we fit in, right? It's helping secure everyone, right? How do we compare? So if you take Kaspersky, we actually have one of the highest participation rates in independent tests and reviews across the world, right? It's just from 2024 and 2025 is actually higher. We have 91 plus first places, and we have participation in 95 tests and reviews, and we are in the top 3 for 97% of those, right? Now, a lot of people ask me, especially like after the session, we generally get the question, are you guys using AI? And the answer is, of course, we've been using AI for over 20 years. Machine learning, especially in terms of looking for indicators of attack and compromise, have been a very core part of our technology from the very beginning, right? 20 plus years ago, we were using machine learning to help us detect threats on endpoints, to help us detect incoming threats and new threats, right? So we also invest a serious amount into AI R&D. As of now, a majority of actually about 50% of our research and development is just going into AI alone. And the reason for that is, as AI has come into the market in so many different ways, on a personal way or level, on a corporate level, obviously it's also entered cybersecurity as well, right? I'm sure many of you, if you've just watched phishing emails over the last 2 years versus the last 10, you can see a significant improvement. We no longer see bad grammar, typos, none of that. They're super advanced, they're super direct, and actually a lot of them are spear phishing attempts, and they're very directed at who the email is sent to. So what do we do? Okay, so obviously we help people secure their environment. So we do a few things. Obviously, we can help you run your security. So maybe your cybersecurity team is lacking right now. Maybe you're struggling to hire new people. I think everyone is pretty aware of the cybersecurity personnel shortage worldwide. Most people struggle to hire new people, right? So we can offer things like managed detection and response, or even incident response should, unfortunately, an incident occur, right? Then obviously we can help you build your core technology stack with our core technology stack, right? So we offer you everything starting from endpoint detection and response, extended detection and response, network detection and response, and obviously at the core of that, security information and event management, our SIEM solution, Kuma, right? And now let's say you have your cybersecurity, let's say you think you have all your bases covered. That's never the case. I mean, I love to, there's a Japanese word Kaizen, and that basically means continual improvement. So even if you think you're 100% secure, there's people whose goal it is to try and break your security. So as a cybersecurity professional, it's up to us to do everything we can to help improve our cybersecurity. So we can offer you things like threat intelligence, where we help plug in our data feeds, where we have our global threat research teams across the globe gathering details on all these threat actors. We can give you a threat intelligence portal. We can also help train your cybersecurity personnel as well as your end users. I mean, I think any professional here probably aware that generally you find the weakest link in your cybersecurity to be, the end user, right? So that's also something we can help with our security awareness platform, as well as if you are building your cybersecurity, building from scratch, improving, we can also help you consult on all of this, right? So that's just a little brief about the company as a whole and just a general view of our product line. Thank you everyone so much for your time. With that, I will now pass the session over to our solution pre-sales manager, Jason, who will take you in far more detail on some of those solutions. Thank you, everyone. Jason, you're on mute.
Thanks, Monish.
All right. So, to Jason, guys. Thank you, everyone.
All right. So, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the time for joining the session for today. So, just now the introductions. Before that, let me quickly share my screens. Okay, give me a thumbs up or give me a high five emojis to make sure that the audio and the screen share, everything is okay. All right, great. So yeah, again, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So let me quickly introduce myself again. My name is Jason. I'm a pre-sales manager to covering AEC regions, and I'm based in Malaysia. Yeah, happy to be here to share some of the informations about our product lines on how we are actually, Kaspersky are actually helping customer to unify their SIEM or even though XDR to adopt these kind of solutions for the modern security operations. All right, so without further delay, let's start for today's sessions. So, previously I just go to ChatGPT to put in some keywords and then ask them to generate some graphics for me. So I just put like SOC, day-to-day operations, what is the key challenges, daily challenges, what kind of hated thing that I always encounter, when they're going to the office that facing the SOC monitors or the system. So it come out these graphics. So I think that for SOC analysts, their day-to-day operation job, it might look very unreal, but it's actually that it's really something happen in the day-to-day operations in terms of the SOC environments. So when we talk about SOC, we all know that it's a security operations center that helping the organizations to consolidate all the information from different platforms or different data source they want to consolidate. Eventually, they have a central system to have all the visibility, and then at the same time, they can do certain actions against it. But in reality, a lot of this kind of SIEM solution, for example, it will generate huge amount of alerts, huge amount, because you're receiving huge amount of data source, right? So for the SOC analysts, their daily job is to handle this kind of, we call it tsunami of noise, all right? So if let's say without a proper solutions to helping them to automate it, filter it up, those unnecessary data, it's almost impossible for them to have an effective job in order to hunt those possibility threat that could be coming into the organizations, right? So that's why even though with traditionals or legacy SIEM, customer might be still facing this kind of a slow response in terms of a detection and also response, right? So when we talk about this, these are some of the keywords that probably most of you guys might be seeing in the markets, right? You may be seeing from the system, you're seeing SIEM, you're seeing SOAR, and then also recently the XDR actually was coming to the picture. So let's talk about the first thing, SIEM. What is SIEM? So SIEM, as you guys know, that it's actually come from two different, to combine two different set of tools. The first one, we call it Security Event Management, SEM, and also Security Information Management, SIM, into one single platform called SIEM. So as we all know that SIEM, basically their main job is to collect, aggregate, and then analyze those log data source from different kind of data source that within IT infrastructures. And then they're able to correlate and then produce some correlations rules into it to match this kind of a suspicious activity to be detected. All right. So that is basically what SIM is doing. But what SIM, the limitation on SIM is that the problem of the SIM basically is not designed for a specific purpose for detecting and respond to the incidents. They are good into collecting the data from different sources. They can normalize the data. They can apply some correlations to do some detections. But after that, in terms of responding to the incident, that is something there are limitation on the typical SIEM solutions in the markets. And then there are too many alerts. And then if let's say without a proper skills or experienced SOC analyst, it's almost impossible and very hard for you to create a very effective correlation rule to detect this kind of event in the organizations, right? And then the next thing comes to the SOAR. That's why when you want something like automated response, that's why the security orchestration and automated response solution actually come into the pictures, and let's say about year 2015. All right, so you can resolve some of the problem that I mentioned earlier in the SIEM. So SOAR platform basically is to provide the solutions to helping customer to do more automated response. All right, so after when you're detecting something in the SIEM, it can correlate and then can integrate it to the SOAR system in order to provide an automated response, right? But the thing is that, again, the limitation for SOAR is that it sounds all pretty good, right? You can solve everything like automated. But the thing is that to maintain a well-configured SOAR platform, which integrate with different kind of a tool set in the organization, come from different vendors. So this will require an ongoing effort of a highly skilled or the matured SOC teams, which is kind of like a resource which many companies don't have right now. And then this will giving the current cybersecurity a skill gaps, right? So this is the problem for the SOAR, the limitations. So that's where when you come into the next one, which is the recently adopted system called XDR, the full name is called Extended Detection and Response. So what this XDR basically is that it can fully integrated almost quite different kind of vendors in the markets. Either is from the native solution they're provided by the same vendors like us, Kaspersky. We do have a huge product that we offer, like what Monish was mentioned just now. It can fully integrate it to the XDR platform. But let's say customer, they're also using some other platform like maybe their next-gen firewall, the web proxies, DLP, so on and so forth, it still can integrate to the XDR platform to have an extended detection and response as a full solutions to the organizations. And then this XDR also adopting some of the automated response, like what SOAR is also offering. All right. So that is something that actually I want to share to you guys, that these are the key general informations, the differentiator between SIEM, SOAR, and also the XDR. In later on, we'll share more information that how our Kaspersky basically can offer a solution to customer in terms of SIEM or even though the XDR to helping them to enhance their cybersecurity operations. So before we talk about the actual products, so this is something that we want to share to you guys is our Kaspersky. We do develop kind of, as you can see in the screen here, we call it cybersecurity frameworks. So what is this framework all about? It's actually helping customers to helping them to create a stage-by-stage cybersecurity approach based on their maturity level in their organizations, the security level in the organizations. So if you look at that, we have a stage one, which is the foundations, which means that you need some solutions to helping you to handle these community threats, or we call it common threats. That's where all those typical endpoint protections come into the pictures to help you to protect your different kind of platforms in your organization. It could be from your endpoint, server, or even the mobiles. All right. So when this thing you already cover this, which is the fundamentals to cover this kind of community threat in stage one, that's where you slowly move on to stage two if the maturity level is increased, right? So this is where that we also offering the optimum security to the customers. Like apart from the endpoint security, we are starting to offering EDR solutions, because based on the endpoint protections, you can detect based on the, even though the signatures, or we have a heuristic behavior analysis to detect those unknown malware, but the endpoint protection is helping you to detect and delete, right? But for you to move up another layers, you are not only want to detect and delete, you also need to understand what is the chronology events whenever this kind of incident happen. For example, when a user try to download some malicious email content, so let's say there's an Excel file. Within the Excel file, there's a macro that running at the back end, maybe kickstart the PowerShell running some script to create some registry or try to establish some network connectivity to the outside world, which is the CNC server. So the EDR basically will give you this visibility, like the entire chronology event. Where does it start? What does it happen? And what does it do for this entire incident? And where does it end? All right, so this is how, when you're at the stage two, you want to handle these more evasive threats. That's why the EDR come into the pictures, right? And then when we move on to the much more higher or much more matures in terms of security, like for example, those large enterprise, the FSI, they already have a very matured SOC teams, or they have IT analyst teams to handle this kind of complex and APT attacks. So this is where that we have our ultimate, we call it expert tiers solutions to offer to the organizations to improve their maturity levels in terms of IT securities. Like just now we mentioned, we have SIEM. We also have our XDR, which is our native XDR. Previously, we do have a native XDR, which means that the XDR is only can be worked with our own Kaspersky solutions. But we all know that not every single customer using the single vendors, right? They also have their investment on some other vendors. That's where the open XDR come into the picture to help you to integrate with other platforms that you are currently invest in the IT infrastructures. So that's why we have this open XDR. And then we also have our threat intelligence to give you more information in more context on the threat that you've never seen before. That this threat intelligence basically is a contribution from our expertise centers in Kaspersky to produce all these valuable information to give you additional context based on the information that you receive maybe from your SIEM, from your XDR. Then with the threat intelligence, basically we can provide like additional information to give you extra context on what this particular object is all about. All right. And then just now, Moniz also mentioned, we are not only provide solutions, we also provide the services as well. So that's why we have this managed detection response. We have MDR solutions that helping customers to improve their mean time of detection and mean time response by leveraging our Kaspersky SOC team at the backend. All right. So just to quickly share to you that this is our cybersecurity framework from Kaspersky. As I mentioned, it's a stage-by-stage cybersecurity approach to helping customer to align with their existing security maturity in their IT environment. Then we have dedicated solutions to handle customer to accomplish this approach. So let's come back to our main topic or main products for today. One of the main products, which is our SIEM. So the solution, we call it Kaspersky SIEM, or we call it KUMA, Kaspersky Unified and Monitoring Platforms. This Kaspersky SIEM basically can bring some of the business benefit to the organizations. Like, for example, first one, you can see that we have proactive threat detection and correlations. So because this SIEM basically is built by our Kaspersky SOC teams, and this Kaspersky SOC team basically was really in the market. They are already constantly deal with those cyber threats in the real life. That's why they have enough experience and knowledge to develop these SIEM platforms with those correlation rules they've been using so far. So when this SIEM was ready in the pictures, we already have some built-in correlation rules that built by our Kaspersky's SOC team to helping customer to detect and to trigger some of these kind of alerts based on the data they collected in their organization. And then with this, we can actually rapidly incident response to have a better incident response and to reduce this dwell time, because when things happen, when you detect, you also need to have some response as soon as possible. So this SIEM, they also have some automated response capability that was really built out of the box that actually can helping customer to reduce the response time. And then SIEM, as we all know that maybe when they first introduced the SIEM in the markets, one of the key objective people leveraging SIEM is for the log management. Because some of the organization, when they're looking for SIEM, they don't have a mature SOC team, but their main intention or main objective for the SIEM is basically for them to keep the logs. Because they have some compliance that they need to, there's some regulatory, they need to comply. Let's say they need to keep the raw logs in the organization for 3 years, 5, or even up to 7 years. So that's where the SIEM basically come into the picture to helping customer to provide as a centralized log management, and then with some retention needed. Let's say after they want to keep for 7 years, after 7 years, the data will be deleted. Those old data will be auto-deleted. So Kaspersky, of course, we also can provide this kind of a scalable log management, and we can also provide some flexible retentions to the customers. And of course, with advanced analytics and prioritized alerting, you still remember that the graphic that I'm generated with the ChatGPT. So when you're receiving too much of alerts, the main things that you want to do is that how the system can help you to prioritize the events. Which one is the most important that you want to handle first, right? So the solution from our Kaspersky SIEM, basically we are not only helping you to consolidate the data, we also helping you to prioritize the alerts. So the SOC team, they know what need to deal with based on the highest priority, right? And then we have a huge out-of-the-box content. A lot of integration is available out of the box that you can integrate to your existing investment for your IT security. Then, of course, lastly, we have this normalized event data models. Since we are integrating with different kind of a data source, how we can standardize the data from different data source as a standard format, eventually can be understandable by the Kaspersky SIEM. That's why we have a lot of normalized connectors that helping you to standardize all those data when you want to collect from different platforms. So who is the Kaspersky SIEM target audience? Like I mentioned, for those organizations, they are having a highest maturity in their IT securities, larger organization which have like, let's say more than 1,000 nodes with the internal IT security expertise. So this is also the first target audience that can be leveraged this Kaspersky SIEM solution. When they come into the verticals, it actually can be from any kind of industry, can be from financial, can be from healthcare, telecommunications, retail, government, so on and so forth. And then, of course, if let's say for those customers that currently they're using our Kaspersky endpoint or EDR, and then they're starting their maturity level was really increased, and then they're starting to develop a team to having this Kaspersky SIEM, the SIEM solution in their environment. This is also another plus point that our endpoint and also the EDR solution able to seamless integrate it with our Kaspersky SIEM solution. But like I mentioned earlier, even though I mentioned that this SIEM is actually mainly for those like highest maturity IT environments. But when we talk about those SMB or even though less than 1,000 nodes, but their intention is to use it as a log management, centralized log management, then Kaspersky SIEM also become one of their also a solutions for them. So I want to share a little bit more about what are the strengths that we offer from Kaspersky SIEM. First of all, it's a smart and efficient. So in this point, how we can provide efficient and also the cost effectiveness to the customers. This solution, the Kaspersky SIEM, basically is an on-prem deployment and it's running in the virtual environments. So in the virtual environment, basically you can fully utilize the virtualization platform that you have that is helping you to save up the 50% hardware or even though the virtualization installations. Because the architecture that we leverage in SIEM, we are running in the modular basis, and then it can run in the very microservices container in each of these components. So that's why we're able to helping customer to save the virtualization resources. And when you talk about data sovereignty, so as I mentioned, the Kaspersky SIEM basically is deployed on-prem. The option is on-prem deployment at this moment. The reason being is that if let's say some of the organization, they have some data sovereignty compliance, they cannot keep the data outside the office or even outside the geolocations. This is where that the strength for this that to deploy in on-prem, all the data, all the infrastructures, everything is under your control. Okay, so there's a guarantee that the confidential of your own data processing because everything is processed within your on-premise. Okay, and the next thing is a smart storage because when you talk about storage, when you talk about SIEM, you are receiving a lot of logs from different kind of a data source. You will receive a lot of data and need to skip into the storage. Right. So from our solution perspective, we can offer a hot storage, cold storage, or even the archive storage. And then for those cold storage, whereby it's inactively using data, or it's considered like an old data, whereby you might need to use it not now, but later for archive search, we can offer you that you can put it into a low-cost data storage, cheaper storage. Then for those like hot data that you constantly need to using it, then you can put it as a hot storage, whereby normally we recommend to use the SSD hard disk, right? Then you can have a faster performance in terms of read and write performance. But for those inactive data, you can always keep it into the cheaper storage. So this is how we can helping customer to save the cost. So we covered a little bit of technical that how this SIEM, our Kuma platform is actually the architecture, how does it look like? If you look at this on the right-hand side, let me put up my pointer. On the right-hand side, these are all the data source that basically you can, our collector, the first component we have in SIEM is called collectors. So this component basically is the main responsibility is to collect the data from different kind of data source that you want to integrate with. Can be from your firewall, can be from your web proxy, your endpoint, your EDR, your DLP, so on and so forth. So the collector will collect all the raw logs from different kind of data source. And then within the collectors, we can do certain level of filtrations. We can do aggregation as well in order to helping you to reduce those data is not necessary to be processed by SIEM, right? Because we all know that SIEM, the licensing is covered by EPS, event per seconds. The more data that you receive, normally the SIEM vendor will charge you more, right? But by using these filtrations, you can filter those unnecessary data to be processed by SIEM. That's how you can save the cost, right? Because most of the time, let's say we assume 100% log has been transferred from those data source. Eventually, when you talk about security events, it's only related to security events, about like 30 to 40%. So you can do the filtration process to filter those unnecessary 60% of the data. Then you only process, mainly focus on these 40% to be collected by the SIEM with these collectors, right? So after the data has been collected by the collectors, then of course it can save the first copy to the storage, store the raw data, because this is somehow can comply with some of the regulations compliant. Somehow they need to make sure that the organization store the raw logs, right? Not the process logs. So with this, we have been storing the data. First copy, we are storing the raw logs to the storage. And then the raw log will be passed over to the next component called correlator. So this correlator will start to using the correlation rules that developed by our Kaspersky SOC built from out of the box. But of course, the customer can also leveraging their own, they can create their own correlation rules. And because correlation rule can be anything, depends what are the criteria that you want to match with certain criteria in order to trigger the correlation rules, right? So we allow users to use our out-of-the-box correlation rules, or you can customize your own. So after the data has been collected, received from the collectors, the correlation rules will process the data. We are not only processing the data, you can also give some kind of enrichments to the data itself. For example, the thread lookups, or even though you can hook up to your LDAP server, the DNS server to provide this LDAP user informations or the DNS informations, right? Because you're not only want to get the IP address or the host name, right? You need to get some other information. Let's say you hook up to your LDAP, your DNS to get more detailed information. And we can also hook up to our threat intelligence component called thread lookups. Let's say when you receive some of the IP address, unknown IP address or unknown URL, you can also get some enrichment from our thread lookups. This thread lookup will give you additional context. What is this suspicious? Maybe this is a suspicious IP or suspicious domain. Why we say it's suspicious, we will give you the full context after you're uploading with the enrichment with our thread lookup component, which is one part of the component from our threat intelligence, right? So this is the correlators. Then of course, the correlators, you can do certain level of response as well. When you trigger this alert, then after that, you can, based on this alert, can do certain level of response. Kaspersky Security Center is our centralized management console to managing those endpoint and also the EDR. So if let's say something happened, you can actually integrate to the Kaspersky Security Center. Maybe you want to run the malware scanning from the particular infected machines, right? So with this kind of a response action you can perform. Or you are using any third party, let's say next-gen firewalls. When you receive this unknown or suspicious IP address, you can actually integrate with a script, let's say to your next-gen firewalls by creating a blacklist IP. And then this blacklist IP will be generated in your next-gen firewall. So from there onward, this IP will be blocked at the gateway level, which is hosted in your next-gen firewalls. So these are some of the examples of the integrations to those different kinds of platforms. Then of course, we have our storage running the cluster. And then the most important thing, the main core component is called Kaspersky Core Component. This is all the platform that we are configuring, all the customizations, configuration, everything is done in this core component. And then this core component also offer the web UI for the SOC analyst to access to the core component to do all those configuration, integration, the day-to-day operation jobs, right, to monitor the events in the web UI as well. So in a nutshell, this is how the architecture looks like for the SIEM. So why our SIEM is kind of different is, first of all, it's easy to deploy. Like I mentioned, we can support all-in-one, because if let's say the environment is not so complex, you are not having like few thousands of EPS or 10 or 20,000 of EPS, very complex environment. You just have like 1,000 or 2,000 nodes. We can deploy all this SIEM in one single appliance. That's why we call it all-in-one. But we also offer distributed and high availability configuration as well to cater those complex environment. Right? So we have these two types of deployment methods based on customer environment and needs. And all those components, like I mentioned just now, the collectors, the correlators, the storage, everything can be deployed in a modular basis. You can put everything in one single server. If let's say you have your branches, your remote site, you want to have a dedicated collectors in the dedicated site, you can also deploy the collector in the branches as well, right? And then we also provide some of the guides that if you want to migrate eventually, you become our customers, and then you are using some of the SIEM, currently using some of the SIEM platforms like QRadar Arcsite. We also provide some migration guide, how you can migrate from the existing SIEM to our Kaspersky SIEM. Then, of course, you can use the SIEM to become your threat hunting, right, to discover any hidden risks. So you can use this to using the searching query, and then we have those reports and to report those security events, including any historical data that will be detected. Okay, So you can create your own SQL query. You can also build up, either you are very master in SQL query commands, or we also provide some of the SQL query builders for you to build up the query more easily. Okay, so if you look at this, these are some of the screenshots that I captured. This is how the interface looks like. When you come into the events, these are all the event has been collected by our Kaspersky SIEM. We call it Kuma. All right. So the event, everything will be showing into here, and then you can, based on whatever query that you want to query the informations, based on the SQL query that you created. As I mentioned, you can straight away type in the query if you're a master in SQL query. If it's not, we also provide the SQL builder, as I mentioned earlier. Then there's a drag and drop buttons. You can add the condition. That will be much more easier for you to create the SQL query based on these builders. So once this builder, everything was successful, and you already know what you want to create, and then you can apply query. From then onward, you will create the SQL queries for you in the event page just now. So you can use this when the things has been collected, then they trigger some correlation rules. The correlation rule will create the alerts, right? Because now it's already matched the correlation rules that you created. That's why the alert will be triggered. And when the alert has been triggered, when you click on that, you want to view the details, you can take this as a case management, right? So you can assign this case or this alert to a specific help desk users, right? Then after that, you can create incidents as well. You can link multiple alert into a single incident, all right? And then the SOC analyst will analyze all the relevant events and all the informations. When things was really confirmed and finished investigations, they can close the alerts after that, right? So you can take this Kuma as a case incidents as well. So there are some of the response, like I mentioned, actually we can leverage with. For example, if let's say customer also using our EDR solutions, we can perform some of the EDR response, like for example, doing high isolations. I can remotely run some program on the infected machines, let's say kill some process. We can also using this to get some data remotely from the infected machines. Okay, so these are some of the response basically that we can integrate with our Kaspersky SIEM platforms. And then next thing is that enrichments and also the integrated. So like I mentioned that now when you receive the raw logs, you are not only seeing those code numbers or code facts, right? You need to also enrich with some additional data. So we have this threat intelligence that we already can integrate with our SIEM to give you more data relevancies for more accurate analysis, and also give you more context on those, let's say, unknown IP or unknown URL. We will also produce these informations to enrich the data. So we are tightly integrated, of course, with not only with our own Kaspersky solutions, but also with other third-party integrations. Like I mentioned, can integrate to your next-gen firewall to do this kind of automations, to update the blacklist in your next-gen firewalls. It also can be done, right? And then the solution also can be installed or can be deployed in multi-tenancy. So this one will come into two use cases. One of that is for those partner, maybe the service partner, they offer MSSP to the customer, so they can set up their infrastructure in a multi-tenancy and then offer to different customers, whereby the data will not be shared to each of these tenants. But for customers, they can also deploy this multi-tenancy. Let's say, for example, in the organization, they have different business units. Each of these business units, they want to collect the data isolated. They don't want to share the information with different business units. Then you can set up this SIEM in a multi-tenancy mode, whereby all those data will be isolated on a specific tenant. Okay. So in terms of enrichment with our threat intelligence, we have another solutions called CyberTrace. So how this CyberTrace works is like just now, the workflow is still the same. You're collecting the log sources, which is the raw logs from different kind of the data platforms. You come into the SIEM, and then the SIEM, before they process, they will forward these logs into the CyberTrace. So one of the use case for this CyberTrace is that, we have these threat data feeds, right? Kaspersky, we do in our threat intelligence portfolio, we do have a threat data feeds. This threat data feed might be contained a malicious URL, malicious IP, botnet IP, a lot of categories on these threat feeds, right? So you can subscribe the threat feed from Kaspersky, or maybe some of the customer, they're already using a third-party threat feed from different vendors, or maybe they're using the open source intelligence. So if you're using this different kind of a platform or different vendors of their threat intelligence, how you can combine it together, right? So what we are doing here is that this cyber trace, one of the use cases is that they can combine and consolidate the threat data feeds from different vendors, from Kaspersky, from third-party vendors, or even though from the open source intelligence. They combine all these threat data feeds into this cyber trace. So whenever you receive the raw logs from SIEM, this cyber trace will actually will process the data. They will correlate the incoming events with any threat data based on the threat data feed that you have been integrated with. And then only you will pass those detected threat back to the SIEM. So another thing is that this cyber trace basically is to helping you to offload the bandwidth for your SIEM. And then when you receive the detected threat from the SIEM, from the cyber trace into your SIEM, then your SIEM have more context, and then you can prioritize the events, so on and so forth. Then they can use this information to have been to deep dive more further if you need to. Then, so this is how the cyber trace basically can integrate to the SIEM. And then if you want to do enrichments by on demand, which means that when you receive the information from the raw log, let's say from your firewalls, you receive this IP, you want to know extra information on this IP address, you can actually request to our threat lookup by integrate this platform. And then we will give you more additional context, like for example, when is the first seen, last seen, any SHA file, the hash file from this particular IP or hashes. Right, so this threat intelligence threat lookup basically will also provide some data enrichments based on the raw data or the raw information that you collected from the SIEM. So there's a synergy, there's a good synergy between the SIEM and also our threat intelligence solutions. These two can leverage and integrate very well together to not only collect the data by the SIEM, but we also provide some better context with enriched data from our threat intelligence portfolios. So we have our cyber trace, whereby I already mentioned just now. We have a lot of threat data feeds. If you don't want to use cyber trace, you can just subscribe our threat data feed and then ingest directly into your SIEM. Also doable. It's just that the SIEM need to be have more resources to process the data and also able to help you to correlate the information accordingly. And then we have threat lookups. This one, like I mentioned earlier, is just like to give you additional context. Let's say the IP address, URL domain, or even though the hashes that you are collected from the SIEM. Then this threat lookup will give you the additional enriched data to the SIEM. Then lastly is that the last strength we have is that to build on the trust expertise. So like I mentioned earlier, Kaspersky was, just now Moniz was already mentioned, Kaspersky was already in the market for 29 years. So we have a lot of active expertise that they are still active in this cyber security world. We have this Kaspersky SOC team. We have our great team, which is our great global research threat analysis team. They are constantly monitoring the cyber world in the real time. They're monitoring any APT threats in the real world. That's why we're able to contribute our knowledge and also the expertise into the solution itself, right? So we have an expert who's already here to help you to support. And that experience, like I mentioned, we are not new in the market. We're already in the market for 29 years. And now, of course, our Kaspersky partnership, we have nearly 20,000 loyal partners. And then we have this kind of presence across 6 continents and 200 countries. Of course, in AEC regions, we also have a lot of partners that are able to helping you to assist you. So why I want to start the SIEM at the beginning before I talk about XDR? Because if you look at this, our Kaspersky Next basically is our solution offering. We have 2 tiers of Kaspersky Next solution offering. The one on the left-hand side, we call it Optimum. Basically, those are mainly for small and medium-sized business that we offer EDR solutions, even though essential XDR, not a full-blown XDR, but it's essential XDR to the organization. And then we also can offer the managed services as a services to customer because they might be lacking of IT security teams. They need additionals from external party to helping them to improve the detections and also the response. That's where the managed services come to the pictures. But when we shift into the right-hand side, if you look at that, that is the expert tiers. So like I mentioned, this expert tier basically is for those highest maturities organization, mostly our enterprise level. when we talk about enterprise, maybe it's like 1,000 node and above. So foundations, this EDR foundation is the endpoint protections is come across every single tiers here. Either it's your optimum or expert. Foundation was really as a foundation, as a fundamentals for the protection is really come into the pictures. And then you have this EDR expert. There's a EDR capabilities, but it gives you more additional information, the additional action that you can do compared to the EDR optimum. And then when you come to this, the final tier, we call it XDR expert, which means that it combines the EDR foundation, EDR expert, and also the SIEM that I mentioned earlier. So this XDR expert is like combination of the endpoint protection, EDR, and also the SIEM as a single management platform to the organizations. So this will create like a complete suite to customer to protect in terms for the endpoint and up to the SIEM and also the XDR capability. Right? So what are the functionality that we have in the XDR expert? So like I mentioned, so we start from this on the left-hand side. Of course, we have this endpoint protections. We can also have this in each of these XDR expert. For each of the license is actually based on user base, which means that if one single user license that you purchase, you actually can have 1.5 email protections. So the email protection, either you are using in Microsoft 365 or you're using your on-prem Microsoft Exchange, or even though some other on-prem email server, then you already entitled this email protection as well. It's 1.5. And then we also provide this security awareness training. So what is this all about? We all know that who are the weakest link in the organizations. I mean, you can implement a lot of the network security parameters, right? You have firewalls, you have proxy, you might have another layer of firewall, so on and so forth. But the weakest link in the organizations is still the human, right? Because a curiosity from a human, when they click on the phishing links, like what Monish was mentioned just now, the phishing link can create more damage. Eventually, this machine was infected. Not only that, the infected machine can lateral movement to some other machine. Eventually, it can reach those critical server to retrieve the data, the valuable data from the organizations. So from this XDR expert, basically, we also offer this security awareness training to the employee to improve their security awareness in terms of cybersecurity. So within this training program, they have a lot of topics that actually you can create and then assign, enroll to the employees. Social media, emails, phishing, so on and so forth. So there are a lot of a training program basically you can enroll to the users. So that is the first part that actually offered by XDR expert. All right. Then the second thing, this central part here, the identified complex and persistent threat. These are all the features that I mentioned earlier that was already exist in our SIEM. So like I mentioned earlier, the Kaspersky SIEM is also part of the XDR expert. So this is one of the key components for the XDR expert solutions. So it provides the monitoring and cross correlations. If let's say there's an alert come from different sources, let's say you detect some, your endpoint was detect some threats, maybe at the same time, your next-gen firewall also detects some suspicious network connectivities to outside world, let's say to the CNC server. So these two data actually can be cross-correlate together. Eventually, it can produce the alerts to you, right? So of course, it also provide the advanced detection of persistent threats, and then can do the threat hunting and investigation from the SIEM portal or the XDR portal. And then we also provide the case management. And then the key important things that what XDR expert is having more compared to the SIEM is the automation and orchestration, or we call it like playbooks, right? So playbooks is something like you can create like a workflows. Whenever incident happens, what are the workflow will be triggered? So you can create a very customized and very comprehensive workflow based on your needs. You can, let's say, first line, you want to kickstart these first actions. When this first action is done, you can trigger second and third, so on and so forth, based on the playbook configuration that you can configure in the XDR platform. So this is also additional things that what XDR platform have, whereby Kaspersky SIEM, they don't have this automation. So that's why with this XDR expert, we combine all these things together, the endpoint protection, EDR, SIEM. At the same time, we also provide the automation and also the response automation and also the orchestration features to customer. Then of course, you can use this to become your incident response tools as well. So this entire platform, this entire solution, actually, it will be managed in this platform. We call it OSMP, Open Single Management Platforms. So either customer, they might be just purchased the EDR Expert with our latest version. This EDR Expert, even though it's an endpoint and also the endpoint EDR, but it will also be managing by this OSMP platform. And then if you are the XDR Expert customers, again, this will be the single platform we'll be managing, because this one eventually in future might be our single management platform to managing not only our EDR, our SIM. We have more and more solution eventually in future might be integrated to this OSMP as well. So quickly to share with you how this OSMP looks like. The platform, again, this is the key component in the XDR Expert. So the functionality from the SIM, everything is here. We have playbooks, case management, dashboard reporting, everything. You can use it in this OSMP. And then for the EDR Expert, we also provide certain level of licensing from this additional component. Like I mentioned, the security awareness training program, the sandbox, which is our cloud sandbox, that actually customer can send some unknown malicious payload to our cloud sandbox to do analysis, and then we're able to provide you some verdicts after the sandbox complete the analysis. And then we also provide the mail securities as well. Either you're using Office 365 or on-prem email server. We also can help you to protect your virtual platforms, let's say your virtual server. So these are the license also be included in the XDR Expert. Then of course, all these things can be integrated just like SIEM. We can integrate it and to collect the data source from different kind of third-party data source or from Kaspersky. And then we can also do the integration with not only from Kaspersky solution, like I mentioned in the SIM session just now, we can also integrate to third-party integration. So this is the playbook, like I mentioned earlier. You can create a very customized playbook. The playbook, we have some out-of-the-box playbook is available. You can use that out of the box, or like I mentioned, you can always create your own custom playbook if you want to. So these are huge lists of integration that you can see here. By now, we have about 300 over sources that support out of the box, which means that it's seamless integration. But if those is not in the list, as long as they can support those typical protocol like syslog, CSV, or even though we can integrate directly to the SQL database, we can also do this kind of integrations. So when we talk about licensing on this XDR Expert, is pretty straightforward. It's licensed based on number of users, and then each of the users is equivalent to 1 EPS. Like I mentioned just now, SIM, the license is mainly count by EPS, right? So since the XDR Expert was come with SIM capability, whenever the user buy one license of XDR Expert, it come with 1 EPS. So which means that if you buy 1,000 users, you have 1,000 EPS. Okay, so the minimum purchase of this XDR Expert is actually 250 users. Not only that, like I mentioned, that this XDR Expert license also, you can use it for the endpoint or even though for hybrid functionality, which means that you can install for one desktop or one server. Either is a physical or virtual, okay? And then each of these license also, you can install 2 mobile devices, which means we also provide the MDM features, all right? 2 mobile devices if you buy 1 XDR license. Then you can entitle the cybersecurity training, and we have this security awareness as well, 0.2 users, which means that 20% of what you purchase for your license can enroll for this security awareness training program. So this come into my final slide here. What is to just summarize the key takeaway, what is our value propositions for the XDR or even though the SIM that we're offering. So you can buy the SIM as a standalone solution. For example, you just want all the features in SIM. You not necessarily need the playbook or those orchestration features or automated response features like what we have in XDR, or you don't need to replace your existing endpoint EDR at this moment. You can just buy the SIM as a standalone product. But if you have intentions to, maybe we have a chance to talk about that in futures, that how our endpoint EDR actually can helping you to improve that in terms of detection and response, then this is where the XDR Expert will actually come into the pictures, right? So the XDR Expert basically that is come with the built-in SOAR. We can have this playbooks, everything is ready. And then we can also customize the response and orchestration functionality. And data security and sovereignty, because even though the XDR or SIEM is all deployed on-prem, that's why you can ensure your data everything is under your control within the on-premise, and then you can fulfill the compliance for data sovereignty. Right? Scalable deployment, all the component in SIEM is actually can be deployed in a modular basis. It's running in the Kubernetes orchestrations, so it's easy for you to deploy and scalable and to scale up. Right. So if you want to have additional extra component in different branches, you can also just install the component into that particular site. And then lastly, the fair tracking. This is something that I want to highlight here. Like I mentioned, most of the SIEM vendors, the licensing based on EPS, but we also based on EPS. But what we are different is that we are not refer the raw data, which means like if let's say you receive 1,000 EPS, if you based on raw data, it will charge you 1,000 EPS. But we are different. You can receive 1,000. After that, you can apply some filtration, aggregation to filter, like I mentioned, the 60% of the data. So when you flow into the system, you only receive 40%. So 40%, and then after that, we will also based on this 24 hours period checking to see what is the average EPS that you are actually utilized. And then we will based on that to calculate the license. Okay. And then another good thing is that even though when you purchase 500 like EPS, if you exceed 510, the system is still running as usual. Nothing will be happen, right? We are not restrict. The user still able to access to the platform to do the analysis and so on and so forth. But they just need to purchase the additional license to make the compliance, to make sure they comply with the license. So with that, I hope I know there's a little bit of overruns. I hope that this session will give you more information on how our Kaspersky SIEM and XDR to helping customers to build a better, to enhance their cybersecurity cybersecurity operations. So with that, I conclude my presentation and I pass it back to you, Ella. Oh, I think probably we can look at the, is there any questions? Do we still have time to go for the questions? Okay, I see there are a couple of few questions. Hi, Ella.
Hi, thank you for that very insightful talk. So at this point, we are moving over to the question and answer portion. We do have a lot of questions here on our questions tab. So Jason, do the honors of answering the first question that you see.
Sure. Let me try to answer this question. Does XDR Expert have DLP as well? Unfortunately, we don't have this DLP functionality, but for the endpoint that we are covered in this XDR Expert, like I mentioned, we have endpoint security, right? We have these encryption features that you can encrypt either it's full disk or file levels. It can offer a certain level of DLP capability that helping you to protect your data that in your hard disk. But if you talk about the full-fledged DLP solutions, unfortunately, we don't have this, right? Next, let me see. We need to know information on how to get a demo as well. Yeah, of course. I mean, we can always arrange another session, a separate sessions. If you guys want to know further details, we can always arrange the sessions. I can do another round of presentation, and then at the same time, I can prepare the demo as well to showcase to you guys how does it looks like. If we purchase Kaspersky ecosystem, do we not need to have endpoint and firewalls? If so, what is the payment parameter, how we can contact? Okay. To answer this, first of all, the Kaspersky ecosystem, if you talk about that, we have this, let's say XDR Expert, when I talk about this, is cover the endpoint, EDR, and also SIEM, and also the XDR capability. Basically, we already cover this endpoint, and also including the SIM to collecting of correlations, all those raw logs from different platforms. But we don't provide firewalls, to be fair. All right, so but we can integrate to your existing firewalls. Like I mentioned, that the SIM or the XDR platform basically is that it can leverage your existing investment in your organizations to collect the logs that eventually we can do correlations and then trigger any suspicious activities. Right. If talk about payment parameters, probably we can talk about this After this, we have maybe Monish can contact you guys after this. We can have more discussions in terms of payment parameters. Is the endpoint agent XDR include antivirus? Yes, if you go for XDR expert, as I mentioned, the XDR expert was really cover the endpoint, cover the EDR, and also the SIEM and XDR. So the license for endpoint was really covered, which means that you buy one XDR license, you can install it in one desktop or one server. Okay. Is there any file integrities of FIM modular too? Can we see the dashboard? Yeah, I mean, today I'm sorry that I don't prepare the real environments to showcase to you on the dashboard by default, but the file integrity monitoring is actually available in our another solutions called Kaspersky Hybrid Cloud, right? So that also included in the XDR expert licensing. So if you have a virtual server or you have the virtual server that you want to protect, actually we have this KSCS component was really included in this XDR expert license. So which means that the XDR expert license, either you want to use it in the physical server or physical lab or physical workstation, or you want to use the license to the virtual server, whereby the file integrator monitoring is actually available in there. All right, so see there are another two questions. How can Kaspersky detect and remediate polyglot file attacks? Yeah, good questions. Probably this I can answer to you after this. Just drop us emails. You got the emails from Monish slide. Just try to reach out to us, and then we will provide you after this. Does it detect leaving off the LAN technique? Yeah. Again, let's talk about this after this. I can share more details on these two particular questions. Probably let me jot down. I can contact to you guys after this. Yeah, I think Ella, that's all for the questions. So for the two questions that I mentioned just now, we will come back to you after this. So with that, we already answered all the questions in the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Jason, and of course, Manisha, our speakers for today's webinar. And of course, to all of you here who joined us, we hope that you will go home with very insightful ideas from our webinar. And before we close, we would like to remind you all that a recording of today's session will be given to you in your respective email. So do stay tuned for that. And if ever you do have any further questions that you have not brought up today, please feel free to contact us and get in touch with us with the contact details shown on your screen. So I'll give you a moment to take down the contact details and the email. So if you do have any questions, once again, please don't hesitate to contact us. And with that, this has been your host, Ella, and thank you so much for being with us. And we look forward to welcoming you back in our upcoming webinars. Goodbye, everybody. Okay, so thank you so much for staying until the very end of our program. And just like what I said earlier, we will be having a grand raffle draw for this webinar. And let me tell you that it is very exciting because we will be giving away 3 vouchers worth of $50 to all of you. And our grand prize is an Apple iPad. So without further ado, I won't keep this lucky draw any longer. Please scan the QR code that you can see on the screen, and I will be giving you 2 minutes to answer our survey. This is how you will qualify, you guys, all right? Once again, to qualify for our raffle draw, please scan the QR code located at the lower left of your screen. And if you're done, do tell me done in the chat box below, so I know that a lot of you have already submitted. Come on, you guys, let's answer the survey, and I hope that the luck is on your side. I'm very excited to announce our winners in just a while. We are left with 1 minute and 30 seconds. So I hope you guys are answering this survey on your screen. And in just a while, I will be telling you all the lucky winners. And by the way, don't worry because we will be reaching out to the lucky winners on how to claim your prize. All right, I can see a lot of people have already answered saying done in our chat box. Okay, so I hope that luck is on your side. Once again, we will be having 3 winners of $50 worth of voucher and 1 lucky winner of an Apple iPad. So we have very, very exciting prizes to give out for today. So last 40 seconds, you guys. Last 40 seconds to answer the survey, and we will be closing this survey. So let's see, how many do we have? We have a lot already. I can see a lot of people saying done. So if you haven't yet, come on and answer the survey questionnaire here on the lower left of your screen, because we are down to the last 15 seconds before I will be announcing our lucky winners for today. So once again, I hope you had an insightful session. And to cap off our webinar, I will be saying the winners of our lucky draw. And time is up, you guys. Who is our first lucky winner of a $50 worth of voucher? Let me see the official winner for this. Okay, so let's see. I hope that, you have been manifesting for this. Who is the first lucky winner? We have Heng Falsotheria from J Trust Royal Bank. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, all right? So, congratulations to Heng from J Trust Royal Bank. You were the first winner of our $50 worth of voucher. So I can see Heng already is here saying thank you. So Heng, congratulations to you. And now let's move on to our next winner of another $50 worth of voucher. We have Kamrul Islam from BRAC Bank PLC. Congratulations to Kamrul Islam from BRAC Bank PLC. I can see that he's here. Yes, he is still here. Congratulations to you. And we will be contacting you further on how to claim your prize. Now moving over to the last winner. This is the last one, you guys. The last winner of the $50 worth of voucher goes to Mark Morente from Mega World. Congratulations to you, Mark. And we will be contacting you once again, just like with all the other winners. Don't worry, because we will be contacting you on how to claim your prize. And now we move over to the grand draw of the webinar. 1 lucky winner for the Apple iPad goes to, who could it be? There's a bit of suspense right now, of course. Letting you all sit in with the suspense. Letting you manifest it, you guys. If you do believe in manifestations, I hope that luck is on your side. All right. So let me see. Okay, before I announce, let me see those manifestations. Drop in your emojis. Let me see those hearts and, those hands raised up. There we have it. We have a lot of emojis right now. And the winner for an Apple iPad, very, very lucky winner for today's webinar, you guys. If your name is called out, don't hesitate to, say you're here. Do say hi, do say thank you, just so we know that you are here, all right? Because we're checking if you are still with us after you have answered the draw. And there we go. Zero Magallan from Ateneo de Naga University. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to all of our winners here. Congratulations to the winner of the Apple iPad once again. Congratulations to all of our winners. And of course, to all of you who have joined us in this webinar. Once again, my name is Ella. Thank you so much. And to all our winners, we will be contacting you shortly. Goodbye, everybody.